just because otherwise they just start and they don't tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what she did.
Yeah, that's a corrected. He'll probably say something.
All right, I'm going to call the Building and Site Subcommittee meeting of Monday, July 19th to order, and I've distributed the agenda. We're going to start with the PA systems for Cherokee and Clinton Valley, and I believe Tom Giacchino is going to talk about this item.
Yeah, so we put a bid out for the replacement systems for the for both Clinton Valley and Cherokee Elementary. Unfortunately, we did only receive the one bid, DAT. Oh, can you guys hear me okay? And the reason is they're one of the only local firms that are able to resell CareHawk now, which used to be Duquesne, which are the systems that we're replacing. So we're going to reuse most of the existing speakers. We did add 4 alternates to add some additional interior and exterior speakers, and that they'll integrate with your blue pull string, you know, the blue poles. So we recommend that you accept those so that the full building is covered. So the budget was originally in the construction budget. We put the bid out on the tech side. You know, Jeff and I worked together on it. So he can probably talk more about budget, but their funds are available to accept the bid. There's a little description of where the money is coming from in the last paragraph. And we are also asking to fast track this. If we can get it to the board tonight, the prices are supposed to go up August 1st. So we want to try to get a award tonight so that we can issue a purchase order and secure that pricing.
So we're 40,000 to 80 grand.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about 15,000 in additional speakers that weren't part of the original budget. And then if you deduct the tax, it's really, you know, it brings it down to close to 20,000 for, so it's about 47,000. Again, because it's CareHawk, there's not a lot of retailers that can, because if I.
Can you turn your mic on also, please, for the public?
So there's not a lot of dealers that can resell the CareHawk locally. So that's why we only got the one bid.
Resell, I'm sorry.
Or sell, that can sell the CareHawk. They're a gold partner of CareHawk, DAT. And we're limited with the number of vendors that can actually bid that.
So I just so understand. So you have an existing system you're trying to match?
Yeah, we're replacing
speakers that would match the existing system. So
correct,
it's kind of
yes. So CareHawk is now the new Duquesne, and Duquesne is what exists in both of those buildings. So we're replacing the Duquesne system with basically the new Duquesne, but it's called CareHawk.
Thank you. Yeah, all right, good.
It's okay to fast track too. I know it's on your agenda already for tonight, so we'll bring this forward to the full board tonight.
That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, item number 2 is copiers, and within the packet, there is a motion or recommendation to purchase some copiers. 1, 2, I believe it is it 4 copiers? 3 copiers, and these are to replace copiers at Chippewa Valley, Dakota, and Huron Elementary. Within the bond, there is a replacement budget for copiers, and with these copiers, these are older copiers that are obviously beyond their useful life. So they're replacing existing ones that are well over their recommended number of copies for their useful life. So we're purchasing these through the cooperative My Deal purchasing program. And this is also for consideration for the board for tonight, because obviously there's a little longer lead time. We're trying to get these in as close to close to the beginning of the school year as possible. So are there any questions on?
No, we're good.
Okay.
All right, and item 3 is the change order summary report, and I believe Jeff is going to discuss the items on that list.
Great, thank you, Scott. So we have there's about 15 change orders on the summary report for you. I did want to make sure to focus, there's 2 of them that are rather large, or there's memos for 2 of them that are combined to roll up. They're rather large. A lot of the other ones are fairly routine, but and both of the larger ones are at the transportation, the bus parking garage. So if you work about halfway down, you'll see at the left-hand side, we put a letter A next to both of those. Those are the ones that have memos attached to them as backup, but I wanted to explain to you what those are. So the first one is at the bus lot. As you know, there's different bus sizes. Some of them are smaller, some of them are larger. The district's starting to get away from using the smaller buses because they're only can be used for one thing. They want to try buying more and more of the larger buses. Unfortunately, that space isn't large enough to park a large bus in a small bus spot. So what we want to do while we're doing the repaving of that bus lot is to reconfigure it, to move the concrete island to allow for those bigger buses to be parked there. Those bigger buses are more multi-function, multi-use for those. Additionally, the bus heater blocks, what they use to plug in the buses during the winter to make sure they can start those buses in the morning, those are all in very poor shape. So we need to replace all those electrical. So it worked very much timing wise. If we need to replace the electrical, it made sense to move the electrical to allow us to put up bigger parking spots in there. And that way the district doesn't have to buy a spare bus. In total, those 2 change orders add up to about $30,000. But when we looked at it as far as the cost benefit, that's far less than the cost of one bus, which runs almost $100,000. So it did make a lot of sense. We got time to do it. If we didn't do it now, we probably wouldn't do it for another 20 plus years when we do the parking lot again. So we made the recommendation to do that and start moving forward with moving that and taking care of the electrical. The electrical had to be done regardless because it was in poor condition and just wasn't holding up. It would have been a maintenance repair type thing. So it worked well to roll it into the contract so the bonds could pay for it in lieu of maintenance. And then there's a second large one on there. There's actually 3 change orders. We broke it up, not to hide the amount of it. It is going to be, it is a large dollar value when you look at all of it. But as you can imagine, the last 3 weeks have been very brutal in construction with all the rain that we've had. The parking lots are just soggy sponges out there right now. So we've been struggling with it. We've lost time out there. We really don't have a way to make up time. The testing engineer looked at it, an independent company. They looked at it and said, the best option is to start pulling out some of that sub base that's clay and soggy and bring in some stone, bring in some fabric. It'll firm it up. We've got some great weather coming up here in the next couple of weeks. So it'll start to dry it out and give us the compaction that we need to in order before we start putting the paving back down on that. So we looked at it. I think it totals, right? It totals a little over $30,000 for that area. That is a huge bus parking lot. So that's really the reason why it's so expensive is just the volume of it. But I did want to put it in sort of perspective for you. That entire parking lot is about $800,000. So we did have $80,000 in the bond for a contingency. Between these 2 large change orders, it's going to cost about 60 grand. We're still underneath the bond contingency for that parking lot. So while it's unfortunate we're spending a lot of dollars on there, we need to make sure that parking lot's right, and we need to make sure the parking lot's done in time for the start of school. So this is going to allow us to make up that time. Our contractors are already working 12 plus hours, and they're working Saturdays and Sundays. So we can't ask them to work anymore to make up the time. And we don't want to bury up a problem and have that parking lot prematurely crumble down the road. So those are the 2 large ones. There's obviously several other ones in here. If you've got questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. I wasn't trying to gloss over those, but I wanted to make sure you understood the 2 largest ones. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. And so far, the rest of the parking lots are going better than this. This just happens to be the one bad parking lot out there. Everything else is, we're doing parking lots all over. As you noticed when you walked in here today, we're doing parking lots everywhere. This parking lot's held up a lot better. We've got some minor things, but nothing to this magnitude. So we're doing well. So this would come to your August 9th board meeting, assuming that that's the board schedule for the next regular meeting. It'll come there for full approval. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And actually, the next item is mine too, right, Scott?
I'm sure.
So the next item you have in there, you should have a 2-page document. It's basically an Excel summary sheet of next summer's work. So it looks probably the last 2 pages of your packet, what you have there. So we came to you probably like 3 months ago. We talked about where this was tracking. We did the schematic design documents. We reviewed the estimate with you, and we felt we were tracking pretty close to budget on that. And at that point, we started to talk about what additional projects we might use for some of the bid savings that we've had over the time. So just as a reminder, the work that we're doing this summer is basically the Clinton Township side of the district. Next summer is the Macomb Township side of the district. So it'd be Dakota, Iroquois, Seneca, that whole area. So it's very similar in scope of work. It's roofs, boilers, and parking lots type stuff. So we did an estimate on what the base scope of work was, and that estimate came in really close to on budget. If you look at the last page, you'll see that the budget in the darker shaded spot towards the bottom, the budget was about $10.3 million. We're right about there with the base scope of work. So we're pretty comfortable that we can do what we've originally committed to. But what I did want to do is spend a few minutes with you to explain a couple things that have come up since this was originally planned 5 years ago. So we do have a couple projects that have come to the top of our mind. At Cheyenne Elementary School, the fire alarm has been having problems over there for the past 2 years. And so we'd like to look to replace that fire alarm system. And then the roof on the original part of Fox and Mohawk, those roofs have been replaced before 20 plus years ago, but those roofs are really failing again. We thought we still had a few more years of life in them based on when we looked at them before, but now they're starting to fail exponentially. And so the recommendation from the facilities department is to move those products up, to use the additional bid savings that we have that I think reviewed about a month or so ago, and take that to fund those priority projects. We have to do those regardless, so the district has to do them regardless. So if it wasn't funded through the bond issue, they'd wind up being general fund expenses. And it's about $1.5 million worth of additional work. So we're recommending doing that. In addition to that, though, what we're recommending is the carpet at Cheyenne and Ojibwa. Those are about 20 years old right now. That's usually the useful life of carpet, but that carpet is wore very well. It's been taken care of very well. We feel we could put that off for at least another 3 years. And so our recommendation is let's not replace the carpet now at Cheyenne and Ojibwa, and let's move forward with these roofs and these fire alarm system. We feel that's more important. It's more the life safety and critical nature of the buildings. So that is our recommendation to keep this moving forward, basically to give Brian and his team the direction to continue the bid documents on this. Not to say we're not going to replace the carpet at some point. We do need to replace the carpet, but the roof and the fire alarm is much more important at this point. So hopefully that made sense. And if you have questions regarding that, obviously the $10 million is a lot of scope of work in here, and I can go over that in more detail with you if you want, but I definitely wanted to let you know a few of the things that were our recommended changes to the original scope of work. And this wouldn't have to come back to the full board unless you wanted it to. We would just proceed with this, and it would come to the full board in December when we actually award contracts after it goes to public bid. Scott, did I cover it pretty well? I know we reviewed this last week a little bit. And,
So that safety alarm, that fire alarm, been acting for like 3 years, you said now? Had problems with it?
yeah, it started off with the alarm panel was bad over there. That alarm panel kept on going off, and they couldn't get it fixed. They brought in 2 different companies to work on it, and nobody seems to get it right. They really are both recommending replacement. Obviously, when you bring in a contractor and he says replace it, you always are a little skeptical because they're going to make money off it. So we did bring in another company, and they said we can't fix it either. You know, it's due for replacement. That was done when it was originally built, so it is 20 years old now. It was a good fire alarm at the time. It was pretty much a premium fire alarm at the time, but it is a piece of electronics, and electronics do get temperamental after so long. And we can't just, unfortunately, we can't just modify it like we could in the past, which is what we did to a lot of fire alarms. The new code requires that fire alarm to have different addressable systems, and I'm not sure, Brian, if you can help me explain. It's just not the same way they used to be. They've got to have they got to be an audio component now, right? Not just a noise. They got to have a voice piece of it. And that was something I think they changed in the code in the last 10 years or so, based on some of the shootings and some of the things they're doing. So we can't just replace the panel anymore. It's got to be a full system replacement.
These are just projected costs, we'll know until we bid it, right?
Correct. This will all go out for competitive bids. We'll get plenty of bids on that. It'll be a standalone project, so if by chance we decide not to do it for one reason or another, we can always make that decision then. At this point, all we're doing is planning to proceed with the design portion of that and see where that lands. Hopefully, things go well. Hopefully, the market turns back around and starts to come back down and level back out, and this escalation that we're seeing helps. But right now, it's, this will hopefully bid at a better time. It's always a good time to bid in the winter, because that's when contractors are most excited to get more work and line it up for next summer. So we'll hope for some better results, but that's a pretty much industry standard, that $3 a square foot for a fire alarm system.
All right. Sounds good.
Great,
Thank you very
thanks.
much.
So Jeff, just to clarify, the recommended additional scope, we're going to bid as alternates, or are we going to recommend, are all three going to be bid as alternates?
Well, they would, the fire alarm wouldn't be an alternate. It's because it's a standalone scope of work. There's no other fire alarm work we're doing. So, but it would be one item that could be line itemed out if we
Okay.
wanted to. The roofing would be bid as alternates. Right now, the base scope of work at both those buildings is the 1998 edition that we built. That's the oldest roof that needs to be taken care of. That's what was in the bond issue. These part of the roofs that we're showing here would be bid as an alternate to that. So yeah, you could make the decision not to do that if you wanted to, if for some reason another priority came up. But that's, yeah, so those would be identified separately and be able to award it separately if we wanted to.
And 825 is the unit cost now for roof?
Yeah, it came way down, but if you remember Iroquois, we did a couple of years ago, that price came way down. Right now, it's a shortage. It's really what it is. It's asphalt, it's the track coating, it's roofing. There's a huge material shortage. That's why we're just starting now with the Erie roof right now, because we could not get material, and that contract was issued back in December. So that's where I'm saying, hopefully the market corrects itself and we can get material, and that will bring that price back down to under $8 a square foot. But that's today's rate right now if you try to get it.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, the last agenda item is furniture for community ed, and the good news is, or bad news, is we don't have that information yet. We're still working on the details of the design of that area. So there really isn't anything to talk about. We'll bump that to the next building and site meeting next month. So other than that, I don't know if there are any other questions that any of the members have.
I have no questions.
Go ahead.
I'm all good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So it is 5:52, and I will close the Building and Site Subcommittee meeting for July 19th. Thank you. Thanks.
Very much.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna run upstairs and eat some dinner.
I guess Josh isn't coming. Picking up the Wi-Fi either? This is connected.
I know.
Do you normally do this on Wi-Fi or do you
Yeah.
normally plug in?
No, I know how to do that. It's
Oh,
always work.
gotcha. Yeah.
Right, they're all muted.
Yes, everything is muted.
Thank you very much.
My phone is connected.
Okay, I just restarted and maybe it's my phone.
Oh.
Fine, I gotta find this monster.
They're all trying. Yes, sir, George. So that's one wrong words. So, well, it is an expiration. Sort of. That one. Yes. That's very Lord.
I have wired internet up here.
No, I don't think it's muted.
You don't think it's working?
I don't think it's muted.
Is your computer?
So I muted my computer.
I'm not sending anything. This sends to you. Could one of your things be unmuted? I don't mute your phones, your devices.
Got it. But then I didn't mute because I'm muting. I'll check.
That's the only other thing I can think of.
No.
I don't even know. So, but I just want to check. I needed it here. 'Cause then it should be.
Unless the sound's coming in from another source, right? Because I have it turned on here. Unless the sound's coming in from another source, right? It's gotta be. What about down here? Turned on.
No, it doesn't.
I just turned everything on.
I'm sorry.
We're hearing that again. Is that the YouTube? What's this? That's very clear. That's a microphone that's somewhere around here.
Oh, no. So,
Even the.
It doesn't matter. It's not on here.
Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Show the green light.
no, we want it. It should
Right
be.
off, right?
Off, please.
It's off. All right.
Still come through. Unplug this, so it's gone. This phone's muted, right?
No, because I'm listening to it just a little bit. It's not too much.
You're listening through to the YouTube broadcast. You're not into. What about, did you call in on the phone? Well, I'm not hearing anything now. This computer doesn't have a microphone? Is that? Okay.
Let me, what if I stop sharing? Because I did share system audio, but there should be no system audio. No, I don't include that.
So when I just coughed, this popped up CVS stream. So which computer is CVS stream?
Okay. So it must make because there's audio on that. And that's why they're hearing us. No, still coming through. Yeah, I can hear that.
So when I just coughed,
It's
this
something.
popped up. See, that's clearly hearing us loudly. So it's the mic has to be here.
You know what? There's 0 tendency. There you go. That's right. There's no one on it. They have an alternate.
It's still picking us up somehow.
When was the last time that we had bid out legal services?
Mr. Sutherland, do you, know when the last time, I know it was maybe a few years back.
If I had to guess, it's probably been about 10 years, if I had to guess.
10 years, wow.
Mhm.
10 years.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding these consent agenda of appointments? Okay. No further comments or questions. Ms. Pyden, give me a roll call vote, please.
Myself, yes. Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Mr. Bednar?
Yes.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Eyes all, motion carries.
Okay. For item B, designation of accounts. Can I have a motion?
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Demink-Zek,
I'll support.
support by Dr. Andriasco. Okay, designating signatories. If questions or comments regarding these designating signatories? Hearing none, roll call vote, Ms. Pyden, please.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Mr. Bednar?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Eyes all, motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on to number 3. That also included district newspaper. 3 investments. Recommend the Board of Education delegate the responsibility for investment of district funds and clients for the Board of Education Policy 6044 and the State of Michigan statutes to the Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations.
I'll support.
Moved by Mr. McZack, support by Ms. Pyden. Okay. Questions or comments regarding investments? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Pyden, please.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Mr. Bednar?
Yes,
Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Eyes all, motion carries.
thank you. Number 4, meetings, membership, and conferences. In the past, board meetings have been held as follows. Regular meetings, 2 Mondays each month. One meeting will be scheduled in the months of July, February, and April. General meetings, special meetings, or policy meetings are to be called as needed. Not only the dates, but also the place and time of meetings should be designated. Board of Education meeting is attached. Association memberships, Board of Education may retain membership in the National School Board Association, Michigan Association of School Boards, and other institutional memberships they find to be of benefit to the district. The Board of Education recognizes the value of membership and attendance at conferences, meetings, and continuing education classes, and approves all related costs, registration, travel, lodging, meals, and mileage, subject to the provisions outlined in the Board of Education bylaws. Questions or comments? I'm sorry, I need a motion on this.
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco. Support. Support. Mr. Vojtovich. Okay, any questions or comments regarding this? Memberships, conferences? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Ms. Pyden?
Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Mr. Bednar?
Yes.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting for 2021?
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Demink Zek,
I'll support.
support by Dr. Andriasco. Roll call vote, Ms. Pyden, please.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Mr. Bednar?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Okay.
Eyes all, we are adjourned.
I'd like to call to order the July 19th, 2021 Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education meeting at 6:30. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. Everybody's having a great summer. Weather's been good, a lot of rain. Next, we'll move on to B, additions, deletions. We have none this evening. C, recognition, presentations. Mr. Roberts?
There are none this evening.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to D, general consent agenda. Can I have a motion for the general consent agenda, please?
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco and supported by Ms. Demink-Zak. Anything the board would like to have removed? Talk about further comments. Okay, hearing none. Roll call vote. Ms. Pyden, please.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Ms. Demink-Zak,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Vojtovich.
Yes.
Ayes all, motion carries.
Okay, and Ms. Pyden, I believe we have a resolution this evening.
We do. Whereas Cynthia Williams has served the Chippewa Valley School District faithfully and diligently for a period of 19 years as a media specialist. Whereas Cynthia Williams, through her leadership, has had a positive impact on the staff, students, and the community. Whereas Cynthia Williams, a conscientious, loyal, hardworking employee, has elected to retire. And whereas Cynthia Williams will be missed by all her school colleagues. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Chippewa Valley School District, not only on their behalf, but also that of the Superintendent of Schools and the administration, extend their thanks and appreciation for a job well done, as well as best wishes for the future. Be it further resolved that this resolution, having been adopted by the Board of Education of the Chippewa Valley School District on the 19th day of July, 2021, be made a permanent part of the records of the school district, and a copy sent to Cynthia Williams as an expression of our appreciation. We certainly wish her the best in whatever her next journey is.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, we also had a number of new hires I saw this evening. I think there were 6 different teachers are being hired into our district. Ms. Roberts?
We don't believe there are any here this evening. Unless I'm wrong. Am I wrong? Any teachers recently hired? No? No.
Okay. Well, we welcome them to our district and look forward to having to work with them closely. Okay, we will move on. Okay, E, old business. We have none this evening. F, new business. F1, approved 2021-2022 Michigan High School Athletic Association, MHSAA membership renewal. Resolution, Mr. Roberts.
Recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve a Michigan High School Athletic Association, MHSAA membership resolution for the period of August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2022, and that the reading of the resolution be waived.
Motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco,
Support.
supported by Ms. Demink-Zak. Rationale, please.
It is required by the MHSAA that the Board of Education formally adopt the annual resolution in order to obtain membership in this organization for the 2 high schools and 4 middle schools.
Questions, comments by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Pyden, please.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Ms. Demink-Zak,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Vojtovich.
Yes.
Ayes all, motion carries.
Thank you. I also want to excuse board members Aquino and Sobal this evening. They had some of the things they needed to take care of, so they are excused for this evening. Again, Ms. Aquino and Mr. Sobal. Okay, F2, approve cooperative bid award for purchase of copiers. Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motion is that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve a copier contract award to Rico USA in the amount of $58,622 for the purchase of 3 copiers utilizing the State of Michigan My Deal Bid Cooperative Program.
Motion, please.
I'll move.
By Dr. Andriasco,
I'll second.
supported by Ms. Pyden. Rationale?
Aggressive pricing was obtained through the State of Michigan My Deal Bid Cooperative Program, of which Chippewa Valley Schools is a member. This recommendation was reviewed by the Building and Site Subcommittee on July 19, 2021, and funding will come from the 2018 Building and Site Fund.
Questions or comments by the board? This was 3 different copiers?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan? Yes.
To replace 3 existing copiers. Yes.
Okay.
And
Hearing
these
no
are just
questions or
ones-
comments?
These are just ones that lived their life and it was from the bond, right?
Correct.
Sorry about that. Okay. Any further comment, questions? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Biden, please.
Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Bednard?
Yes.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Eyes all, motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving to F3 Award Bid Pack 19-T10- Public Address System, PA Systems. Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motions of the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education award a contract to DAT Inc. totaling $80,420 for the purchase and installation of replacement PA systems for Cherokee and Chippewa Valley Elementary Schools.
Have a motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco,
Support.
supported by Mr. Vojtovich. Rationale, please.
This project will consist of the purchase and installation of new PA systems at both Cherokee and Chippewa Valley Elementary Schools. The bid was reviewed and approved by the Building and Site Subcommittee on Monday, July 19, 2021, and funding will come from the 2018 bond issue for this purchase.
Questions, comments by the board?
Again, this is just bond money to replace the PA systems that are far outdated.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Biden, please.
Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Mr. Bednard?
Yes.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Eyes all, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving to F4, approved school loan revolving fund resolution. Mr. Sutherland.
The recommended motions that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve the preliminary school loan revolving fund application and resolution, and that the reading of the application and resolution be waived.
Motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco,
I'll support.
supported by Ms. Pyden. Rationale.
School board approval of the preliminary school loan revolving fund application and resolution is necessary to allow the district to meet its principal and interest payments on outstanding bonds and levy a total of 8.64 mils for debt retirement. Without access to the school loan revolving fund, the district would need to levy additional millage for debt retirement.
Questions or comments by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Biden.
Dr. Andriashko?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Bednard?
Yes.
Ms. Demink Zek?
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich?
Yes.
Eyes all, motion carries.
Very good. Moving on to F5, approved purchase of textbooks. Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, and this is a change in the agenda that was published. We're removing one of the vendors' ballot, so I'm going to read the new motion. The recommended motions that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve the vendors below for the purchase of $260,366.36 worth of textbooks for grants, educational services, and special services department. And again, that top line that in the original motion that listed Follett, we're taking them off. There was an online component that was missed in the bid, so we are not awarding to Follett at this time.
Okay, motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco,
Support.
supported by Ms. Demik Zek. And again, we all, tonight we received this in our board packet, the adjusted, where the Mr. Sutherland just said, so we should have that in your package to look at. Okay, rationale, please.
Aggressive pricing was obtained through the public bidding process, ITB 7.2122. The proposals were reviewed and approved by the Grants, Educational Services, Special Services, and Purchasing Departments. Funding will come from the general fund for this purchase.
Questions or comments by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Biden, please.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Ms. Demink
Yes.
Mr. Bednard,
Yes.
myself, yes. Mr. Vojtovich,
Yes.
ayes all, motion carries.
Excellent. Okay. Okay, moving on to G from the community. I have a number of slips up here from folks that wanted to address the board this evening. Before I get started, as we customarily do every board meeting prior to, from the community portion, we will run through the rules for addressing the board. Just briefly. Okay, first of all, each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 5 minutes duration. The participant shall direct all comments to the board, not to staff or other participants. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Complaints against identifiable school personnel may not be expressed in an open meeting. Such complaints should first be submitted in writing to the board and aired in open or closed session according to the wish of the persons involved. As presiding officer, I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when the person does not observe reasonable decorum. Request the assistance of law enforcement in the removal of a disorderly person when the person's conduct interferes with the orderly progress of the meeting. Call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum so interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting as to warrant such action. Waive these rules with the approval of the board when necessary for the protection of privacy or the administration of the board's business. So, okay. So we've had good community comments coming through our last meetings from a number of folks who had constructive things to address with the board. And I'm sure tonight's just the same. So we thank you for coming. And first off this evening, I'd like to call up Sherry Mason. Sherry Mason.
Because I really didn't plan on talking. There's a lot of things I'm concerned about. But first of all, I feel like the board has a great task and an honor to cultivate and develop the education of our children. And I hope that not only do you take that personally serious, but that you listen to the parents who are also concerned about the education of their children. I've always thought education to be math and English, science, history, art, and sports. All this other stuff that's creeping into our education is horrific. I believe it's up to us parents to develop and cultivate the morals and the character of our children. And for an education system to go against those things that I hold near and dear, I think is horrific. And I'm so grateful because we've been asleep for a long time. I don't think we've been paying attention. This pandemic has really, I think, woken a lot of us up to be a partner with you guys and our teachers and our schools and educating our kids. I don't think parents are going to be willing to accept critical race theory. You guys say you don't know what that is. You had to look it up. I don't believe that. I've read a lot of things from the Michigan Board of Education, and no matter what you call it, critical race theory or whatever other words you decide to use, as parents will be diligent in making sure our kids aren't taught that they're racist or there's something wrong with their skin or they're not smart because they're black or brown. And we will never accept, I will not send my kids to school if they're going to be forced to wear masks or if they're going to be separated because they're not vaccinated. That is just unbelievable to me that any school board, state, government would even consider doing something like that. That has never happened in the history of our country. And I pray every day that us parents will continue to be strong and to speak and to vote on who's going to be deciding our children's curriculum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mason, for your comments this evening. Okay. Next up, we have Ms. Debbie Ringel. Debbie Ringel. And again, I just want to remind, because I didn't say in the outset, that there's a 5-minute limit. I will let you know when you have 1 minute left so that you can wrap it up. Okay, Ms. Ringel, thank you for coming this evening. Please share your comments with the board.
Good evening. First, I would like to speak directly to my observations regarding the blatant disrespect this board and its members have displayed to parents and community members. A board member was actively on her phone, literally texting derogatory statements about those making public comments, which she is responsible to not only listen to, but to consider and respond to during public comments. A board member theatrically using hand sanitizer after passing public comment forms to the one calling the public speakers forward. And I brought a gift. You can add that up there in case it's needed in the future.
I'm sorry, can you pull that mic down a little bit? I'm having a real hard time kind of hearing you right now.
Okay, well, if you
It's
haven't heard
important
me,
what
then
you're
I'd like to start my time over again,
saying. Go ahead,
please.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I am going to speak directly to my observations regarding the blatant disrespect this board and its members have displayed to parents and community members. Number one, a board member was actively on her phone, literally texting derogatory statements, which are documented, about those making public comments, which she is responsible to not only listen to, but to consider and respond to. A board member theatrically using hand sanitizer after passing public comment forms from the public to the one calling the public speakers forward. So I brought you guys some hand sanitizer in case any of you feel you need to do that again. Number three, though requested several times, no podium for the public commentators, which is a blatant attempt to frustrate and intimidate the public commentators, as they all have brought papers with them or documents with them. Number four, the fact that a sitting board member is also holding a position within the teachers union, a blatant conflict of interest, and express direct disrespect to the parents of students in this district, as well as revealing a complete lack of integrity. Now, assuming that each of you are on this board because you care about the education of children, not because of some false sense of importance from holding a title, there are several issues I would encourage you to consider. What will be your legacy? I'm not referring to career legacy, how high on the ladder you climb, and I'm not referring to a financial or material legacy, how much you accumulated and leave behind. I'm referring to something far more relevant. When my autistic son at age 7 was traumatized by a social interaction, which he responded very inappropriately to, as he is unable to read social cues, body language, or take on another's perspective, I struggled to find the words to explain to him how relationships work. I reminded him of a prior time when our family visited a beach in Florida. I asked him if he remembered how we all looked back to observe the footprints we had left behind. I showed him the pictures, the evidence. He remembered. I then explained that just as we left imprints in the sand of where we had walked, the direction we took, that this is how social interactions work. The things we say and do leave an imprint on people's hearts and minds about us. The imprints could have led to danger or safety for anyone who followed our path, to the ocean or to land. The footprints, each step determining the direction and the inevitable effects. I know what these parents, community members' legacy will hold. It will be a deep commitment to the well-being of not only their children, but for their fellow citizens' children as well. Their legacy will be one of good faith, truth, honesty, sincerity, and logic and science. What they are fighting for goes beyond mask mandates, beyond vaccine issues, beyond curriculum. They are fighting for the exclusive and confirmed by law, their parental authority. They are fighting for their and their fellow citizens' right for freedom as outlined by our country's founding documents. These parents, individuals will be leaving a legacy of courage, of love for country, for family, and freedom. Now, you may think that your decisions, policies, curriculum, and procedures are for some fabricated greater good theory, but you are mistaken. And if you continue to justify your decisions based on that fallacy, then your legacy will be one of shame. At the core of your decisions moving forward, there are only these determining factors to be considered. Do you commit to upholding and respecting parental authority? Do you commit to upholding the Constitution and all other founding documents? Do you commit to recruiting, employing educators and staff that share that commitment? Do you commit to curriculum, training, and instruction that respects our country, our flag, our freedom, and whose only reference to diversity is that of respecting all as unique individuals as opposed to segregation or discrimination based on anything like vaccinated, unvaxxed, masked, unmasked, Republican, Democrat, or any other nonsensical, irrelevant issue when it comes to educating our children? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ringel, for your comments this evening to the board. Great, thank you. All right, Mary Berlinger. I'm sorry, Mary. Thank you for coming this evening and
Thank you.
for sharing your comments with the board. Please begin.
Thank you for having me. And it's Berlin Jerry. Good, was close. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Berlin Jerry, and I'm here as a concerned mother. I would kindly ask you to please listen to all of us parents and continue to listen to all of us parents that are here in attendance, those that will be in attendance in the future, and those constructively voicing their concerns. These parents that are here are fighting for fair education without mask or vaccine passports. It is not their fault that our lawmakers have failed them. This is an opportunity for all of you on the board to shine. The National Center for Educational Services estimates that we have around 75% women in the teaching field, consisting of mothers, grandmothers, and soon-to-be mothers. I am sure many in the teaching industry are applauding the folks that are here tonight, as it's also in their child's best interest. It's imperative that you work with the parents here tonight, as they are also representing many of your teachers who are also great mothers and fathers. The National Center for Educational Services, the statistics show that parent involvement is at an all-time high, with arts, crafts, board games, community-sponsored events, etc. With that type of parent commitment, you shouldn't be surprised with the attendance here tonight and in the future. I want to remind you that Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is not an elected body and does not have elected officials. We cannot have unelected officials making public policy. You, the Chippewa Board of Education, are the elected officials. You are the ones that are responsible for public policy regarding our schools. We all love our kids and we want what is best for all of them. A mother's bond is a special one. As a Christian, I look no further for an example than our Blessed Mother Mary. How many people have seen the Michelangelo sculpture, the Pieta, where Jesus is laying in Mary's lap? It wasn't until I became a mother that I saw this statue quite differently. She's not holding him tight. She is not caressing his body. She is in pain with her left hand up, and I see her saying, "What have you done to my son?" Well, these mothers and fathers that are here tonight are asking you, what have you done to our children? Thank you, and may God bless you with the courage to always make the right decision. My name is Mary Berlingeri, and I am fighting for all of our children.
Thank you, Ms. Berlingeri, for your comments this evening. Okay, we have one left here. Ms. Zielinski, Rita Zielinski.
So I'd like you all to remember these words tonight, that nothing can stop what is coming. The war against the people was already won. You, the board, are merely caught up in the death rattles of a corrupt system. People are waking up and seeking truth at a faster pace than ever before. They are learning that there is no Republican and Democrat party anymore. And for decades, this illusion has created the wealth and power for them at the expense of the people on a global scale. You are simply caught up in the crosshairs, knowingly or unknowingly. In relation to your elected positions by the people, by the parents, you have been tasked to listen, communicate, make decisions for us, yet according to us, but you have not. You have been directed and followed orders, whether it was shutting our schools, mandatory masking, social distancing, testing, quarantines, vaccines, possible CRT. You have denied and ignored the science, the censored science, the true science. You have hid behind requirements, recommendations, and have taken orders from a corrupt system of teachers' unions, government officials, including the CDC and the health departments. We know you did have a choice during the pandemic to not follow, to lift, to ease, or to open. So why didn't you? It's very clear now, self-preservation. You let our children, your grandchildren, suffer, be abused with long-term risks to their health, education, mental well-being, knowingly or unknowingly of an agenda by a corrupt system, because they said so. People seem to be triggered by the word agenda, so a few questions. Public education is created and funded by who, besides the taxpayers? Who is actually telling us that we're all racist? Who is telling us and now wants racism taught in schools? Like who likes who, or who doesn't like who, or that color matters? Are the people who created the Blue Lives Matter really the same people that created Black Lives Matter? Why does true history show us that the same people funded both sides of almost every war? Why does the same scriptwriter that writes for Rachel Maddow's monologues for CNN also write the monologues for a Fox News reporter? Why is every article, study, doctor, nurse, or person like me censored if we speak out against a narrative? Could the censored materials be what we should be really looking at? The CDC government reporting VAERS, a government reporting agency, shows 10,000 plus deaths by the vaccine and hundreds of thousands of adverse reactions. Why are they not showing us that? Now Whitmer wants to hire 500 medical employees to rotate and test or analyze our children. Don't be fooled by another power grab to challenge our parental rights. No agenda? So last question, the school's medical consent form, the one we signed for, if my kid gets injured on a playground type thing, is that the same consent form that will justify vaccinating children without parental consent? That's a serious question. So back to knowingly or unknowingly. I am calling you to the carpet tonight. Your time on that stage is short because enough of us know the truth about who is really running this country. It's not Joe. The parents will grow in numbers and will continue to show up, vote out, recall, until you start to do your jobs by protecting our children, being our voice, recognizing that we alone are the advocates for our children. And so I'm asking you to stand up with us. Critical race theory or 1619 Project will fail as well. As the people awaken, they begin to realize that we have been pitted against each other all along, and that just how similar the majority of us are. And yes, I said the majority. I am merely a drop in a cup that is about to overflow, and my small part is very important. Every parent here is a small drop per se, because once that cup spills over, the people will be on their way to taking back the country, the states, and the schools. The sooner and faster we grow and unify, the shorter the distance to claiming our victory. So I will quote again a good friend. They only look like giants because we're on our knees. The next few months are going to be ugly because the attempts to salvage an already lost war will continue. As for this board, I see two choices. You either stand up with the people or get the hell out of our way because nothing can stop what's coming. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments this evening. All right, next up, Mr. Andre Asko.
Good evening. Walt Adriashko, former Chippewa Valley School teacher, retired. I'd like to thank the board for doing a wonderful job and following the rules of the CDC and the Board of Education of the state and the people that have science and knowledge for protecting our kids in their schools by having them wear masks when appropriate and necessary till we get vaccinated, which is wonderful for everybody to have. And if people don't like that, then they are telling me that they don't have to follow the rules, that they don't have to stop at a red light because it's against their religion, so they can go through anytime they want. That's not good for the kids, not good for the community, it's not good for anybody. So I thank you for doing a wonderful job, and hopefully you'll continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andriasko, for your comments this evening. Okay, that does it for the community. Again, thank you for your constructive and respectful speeches this evening, and we much appreciate that. All right, we'll move on to H, union communication. Have any union leadership that'd like to address the board? Okay, well, thank you for coming this evening. All right, moving on to I, administration reports, Mr. Roberts.
And just a couple things to mention this evening. First, I'd like to recognize Cynthia Williams, whose retirement resolution was read this evening. Cynthia has been a very dedicated employee to our school district for the 19 years that she has worked here. That has been spent as a media specialist. I know at central office, Cynthia was a person we could count on when we needed information that the person most likely to be able to provide it was a media specialist, and that actually happens quite often. So I want to wish Cynthia the best as she goes forward, and knowing her energy level, other great things are in her future. So congratulations to Cynthia. Today, an opportunity to visit our summer schools at both Ojibwa and Ottawa. I want to commend the staff. I want to commend the students. I want to commend the families who have their kids there. It takes a special commitment, and the kids are enthusiastic about being there, as well as the staff and administration running those programs. Of course, I could not see all programs today. I saw the ones that were in person. We also have a vibrant virtual program going on this summer. So I think that's kudos to our Educational Services Department for putting together probably the most comprehensive program we've ever had. I also would like to recognize a board member this evening who's here on her birthday, Jill Zach. Happy birthday to Jill Zach. So Jill, when you're about 90, you'll think back, and probably you'll be somewhere, and one of your great-great-grandkids will ask you about memorable birthdays. And you won't talk about the time you were 16 and your family allowed you to go with your girlfriends in a limo, or that you were 8 and you went up to the township pool with a pool party. You will say, well, I remember back in 2021 when my birthday was at a Board of Education meeting. So congratulations on your birthday today, Jill. And thanks for being here enthusiastically.
So I want to tell you, my family is texting me from a restaurant, apparently enjoying my birthday cookie.
Well, ask them to bring a piece home.
Yeah, I just saw Jackson. I don't think there's going to be anything left, so.
Okay, anything on the curriculum, Mr. Roberts?
There are no updates this evening.
Okay, move on to K, of and by the board. Okay, hearing nothing this evening. There's one thing we received, and I just want to take note of one of our local elected officials paying homage to our employees here at Chippewa Valley is from our state senator, Michael McDonald. And he wrote to Mr. Roberts, it is with great pleasure and utter appreciation that I congratulate Chippewa Valley Schools on being voted best teachers in Macomb County. What an amazing honor. Your teachers are dedicated to the education of their students, but also to their wellness and success outside of the classroom. Everyone at Chippewa Valley Schools puts in so much time and energy to make all their students succeed, and I think that is truly admirable. Again, congratulations, and should you ever need any assistance in the future, feel free to give a call or send me an email. Best regards, Mike McDonald. So we want to thank the state senator for his comments and recognizing our not only our teachers, but all our employees here in Chippewa Valley Schools. That's it for of and by the board. So we'll move on to, unless there was something else. Okay. L, executive session. Can I have a motion to go into executive session, 8C for negotiations?
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco,
I'll support.
supported by Ms. Denise Zach. And again, happy birthday, Ms. Denise Zach. Okay. Roll call vote, Ms. Pyden, please.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Ms. Demink Zek,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Vojtovich.
Yes.
Ayes all, motion carries.
Okay. We will move into executive session at 7:06 in the media center. Board will go back into open session at 7:56. And we need a motion to amend the agenda. Can I have that motion?
I'll move.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Mixzak, supported by Mr. Votovich. To amend the agenda to add discussions we just had in closed session. So can I have a roll call vote, please, Ms. Hayden?
Ms. Demink Zek,
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich,
Yes.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Ayes all, motion carries.
Okay. Can I have a motion to add to the agenda under new business, I'm sorry, under item M, approve support personnel contract M1 and M2, approve secretary clerical contract.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Vojtovich,
I'll support.
supported by Dr. Andriasco. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Vojtovich,
Yes.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar.
Yes,
Ms. Demink Zek,
Yes.
myself, yes. Ayes all, motion carries.
thank you. Okay, so we'll move to M1, approve support personnel contract. Mr. Roberts.
Kind of drifted off, thinking I was just going to get to sit here. Who's got it? Recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve the tentative agreement reached on June 29th, 2021 for a new contract with the support personnel. This collective bargaining agreement was ratified by the support personnel on July 1st, 2021.
Motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Dr. Andriasco,
Support.
supported by Mr. Mixzak. Rationale?
The agreement is within the parameters authorized by the Board of Education.
Questions or comments by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Ms. Pyden.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Ms. Demink Zek,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar.
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich,
Yes.
and myself, I'm abstaining.
Okay, note for the record, Ms. Pyden is abstaining from the vote. Okay. Moving on to M2, approve secretary clerical contract. Mr. Roberts.
Recommended motion that the Chippewa Valley Schools Board of Education approve the tentative agreement reached on July 12, 2021 with the secretarial clerical unit. This proposed new contract was ratified on July 14, 2021 by the secretarial clerical membership.
Motion, please.
I'll move.
Moved by Ms. Minczak,
Support.
supported by Mr. Vojtovich. Rationale?
The agreement is within the parameters authorized by the Board of Education.
Questions or comments by the board? Hearing none, roll call vote. Ms. Pyden, please.
Ms. Demink Zek,
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich,
Yes.
Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar,
Yes.
myself, yes. Eyes all, motion carries.
Yourself, what?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we had nobody abstaining. Okay. It shows that the motion passes. All right. Very good. Moving on to item N, adjournment.
I'll move.
Moved by Mr. Minczak,
I'll support.
supported by Ms. Pyden. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Demink Zek,
Yes.
myself, yes. Dr. Andriashko,
Yes.
Mr. Bednar.
Yes.
Mr. Vojtovich.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
They're adjourned at 8 o'clock. Straight up. Thanks, everybody.